Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back in to Take Two with Hawk. He's the Hawk, Dr. Brent Hawkins, Superintendent of Schools. It is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. And Dr. Hawkins, how are you?
We're making it. We're probably more blessed than we deserve. We've been dodging ice coming out of the sky. And, you know, from somebody from East Texas, that's quite different. You know, we have our share of issues in the piney woods, like hurricanes. But it's definitely different to see a baseball-sized ice falling out of the sky. So, but hey, we're here. We're fortunate. We're blessed, and glad to be here.
It's funny. You haven't had that experience. I went. You know, if you see my cup here, I'm an Oklahoma State grad. Way too proud, especially for the season they had last fall. It was kind of a running joke that as projects were coming due, there was always going to be a severe storm when I was in journalism school, and there was a parking garage that you could pay for, but if your project took you past midnight, so we would all turn it in about 12:01, and we'd get out of there, $20 parking tab for free because they just opened the gate and let everybody out.
Well, I've got lots of friends in cowboy land up there all over the state of Oklahoma, and I know those folks are a little different too. They have to dodge tornadoes and everything like that. But you know what? We're resilient. We make it work.
Yeah. Before we dive right into the topics that we have for today, not normal for us to release these in back-to-back weeks, but because when we try to do those Hawks Talk newsletters twice a month during the school year, the way the calendar fell with a little bit of an extra week and the early start to May or the late end to April, however you want to put it, it was a little bit of a gap between board meetings because we always try to put one of those there. When you look at the first episode that we recorded a week ago today, we released it on Monday, what's the feedback you've heard from within the community?
Well, I've had a lot, and it goes all the way from eating in the restaurants in the evenings to folks emailing me, calling me, texting me, and telling me how much they appreciated the information. And that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish with this. We want different modes of communication. But we also have to, a lot of time as human beings, we think about ourselves, and we really can't do that from the school system standpoint because we've got, 30 to 40,000 people that has a vested interest in CCISD. And so of those people, they have different levels of commitment and different levels of need. Some people need a little bit of information, and some people need a whole lot. And so we wanted to make sure that we're packaging it in different ways and pushing out enough information that we meet everyone's needs. If there's something you want to know about your school system, then we want to make sure we're pushing it out and staying, on topic and staying relevant with the things that we're trying to communicate.
And with this podcast, we're able to reach people. So if you want information on the schools while you're driving to and from work or daycare, the grocery store, that's what our hope is for this. Obviously, the Hawks Talk newsletter is straight into your email inbox for when you have time to read it. You can also find all of these at CCISD.com. And so all of that information is available in like you said, where you are. Our goal is to reach you there. Let's dive right in. The first thing we want to talk about is the facilities in CCISD. You talked about when you got into the district back in January, it took about 5 seconds before you called it the B word came up, bond. Obviously, 2024, there was an unsuccessful bond election within CCISD, and the voters rejected that proposal. The facilities needs have not gone away within this district. So what's happening with the facilities in the district, and what should the community know about what's taking place?
Well, you're exactly right. 5 minutes into the district, and I'm getting introduced to the challenges real quick. And the thing of it is, it hadn't gone away. It seems like that everyone I've met, whether it be at civic organizations, at churches, in the restaurant in town, student activities, wherever it may be, I've had several committee meetings. I've had Superintendent Advisory Committee of Students. I've had a Personnel Advisory Committee with staff members, and I've had also our parents in the Parent Advisory Committee. And it does not take long for that subject to, no matter which direction we're headed, to course correct and go back and start talking about facilities. So I know that is very much on the front page, or definitely on everybody's front burner, to say the least. our Board of Trustees did adopt goals this past month, and that's one of the goals that they put in there was to readdress our facility needs and make sure, as I said in the state of the district, number one, we've got to keep the best folks in front of our kids every day, teaching our kids. We got to make sure that we're offering the best of programs and situations to prepare kids for life after secondary studies. And then the other thing is we got to make sure that the facilities that we have align with what we're trying to accomplish from a program and goal perspective. And so we have have a clean slate of ways to address this. We have a new architect that the board hired to get a fresh set of eyes on our facility needs. We also have a third-party group, Schneider Electric, that is looking at our energy and facilities, looking at, to try to make us the most effective that we can as far as our energy consumption, as that is the second overall highest cost that school districts face. And then we have I've talked with a whole lot of people to get input. We've put our facility committee back together. The folks that went all the way back to 2017, there's some of those folks that are still on that committee. And then we have invited and grown the size of that committee to where we will meet next Monday. And we will kind of hit a reset and then start talking about what our challenges and what our needs are. And hopefully over the month of May, we will develop a long-range plan to address what we haven't done. And I say that is, we always talk about our weaknesses or where our challenges are, but we've done a great job in some areas. I mean, you look around and you got House Creek, a great campus that is our newest. You've got the board that has put a lot of money into our facilities in different areas to try to get those up to standard. The challenge is you got some 50-year-old average facilities out there, and the life expectancy of a facility in public education is about 60 years. And so we're nearing the end of life expectancy on some of those buildings. And if you've got a 50-year-old building, just take a walk back memory lane and just start thinking about, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We didn't have computers at that time. The way that we taught, the programs that we taught are totally different. So education has pivoted and has started to make changes that will better make our kids successful. And so, we've got to get, as I've said many times, we've got a community that owns this school, that CCISD brand. We take great reverence in that's an honor to be representing this community. And we want to continue to make sure that we're representing the community in a way that truly delineates us as a school of choice.
With the facilities committee starting to convene on Monday, that's not where it all stops either, though, is it?
No, there will be definitely what my hope is hit that reset on Monday. We'll have a much more robust conversation of our challenges, of our needs. Where are we? Things we've done well, things that we need to do better, and then that will fuel us into the next meeting to where there'll be a whole lot more definite planning and looking at some of the challenges and then leaning on experts. All of us are experts at different things, and so at some point there will also be input for the entire community. We'll do surveys, and then we'll take that data and we'll push all of those data points into a plan that'll come to the Board of Trustees for their input, and they can look at it and make adjustments or send us back and do more work. And hopefully we can get some plans aligned to what our finances are at that point and make some things happen for the kids of Coppers Cove.
What should the community take away from, obviously the facilities in CCISD have been a hot topic for as long as anyone can remember. What that we haven't touched on yet should the community take away from the Facilities Advisory Committee returning to the table on Monday?
Well, I think that we all have to have a little grace in it. Like you say, it's been plaguing our conversation for quite some times, and we're not going to be perfect. It's not going to just magically everything be great and everybody be happy, because that's living in a world that's not realistic. But I think what we can do is we can listen to everyone, and we can work together. If you have ownership, if this school district belongs to the community, then we need to know what it is that they want, and then we need to be able to deliver that, understanding that things don't just self-correct overnight, but it's time for all of us to start taking steps together to make things better. If we can take a step every day to make things better, then it doesn't take a long time for all those steps to add up.
Moving along and moving to another topic that is always, it seems to always be in the news when it comes to education, that's technology and the use of it. This week, in fact, as we're recording this on Friday, it was yesterday, the Technology Services Department and the Digital Learning and Innovation Department here in the district launched a new pilot program with the objective to improve the way that the technology infrastructure and the technology itself serve the students and the staff in the classroom. This is something that the new Chief Technology Officer, Kip Robbins, was really excited to get off the ground. Digital Learning hopped on the second they could. When you look at this program and what it can do and the way forward with technology in this district, what should parents and what should the community be aware of?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, you mentioned Kip Robbins, and Kip is, in my opinion, is one of the best technology guys in the state of Texas, bar none, because he understands a component that a lot of times technology people miss, and that is technology is not a destination of itself. Technology is a tool. And so many times I think there's this misconception out there that we want to replace teachers in the classroom with technology. And that's a failed business model for the vast majority of kids across the nation. Technology is a tool. And what we want to do with technology is, number one, is we want to make teachers' lives easier. We want to, when you think about the job of teaching, and the expectations have never been any higher than they are today as far as our job and what we have to deliver. It's also as challenging as it's ever been, because we have the greatest generation in the history of the world, and they are the most unengaged. And so those two paradigms, high expectations and a difficult environment, we've got to do things to put tools in their hands to make their lives easier and accelerate the instruction, so that students are learning more and they're learning in the way that they're motivated to learn. Now, with that said, the other thing I would say to parents is this, is that I understand the addiction of the screen. We've got screen time that's sitting out there that is dangerous for a whole lot of our kiddos today, and that is concerning for me as a parent. It was concerning for me as a grandparent. So we have to have a balance in that. So we're not trying to move everything over to learning from a computer, but we are trying to be more efficient and to do move to a digital platform, so that kids are engaged, that there is less paper that we have to purchase and buy, that things are held digitally, but that there's also time in the classroom that we can engage and learn the soft skills that we need to learn of working with each other. Those kind of things can't go away. But I think this is a step for us to pilot this program. I think the whole Google platform, or the Google Classroom, brings some things for our kiddos to benefit from. And not only that, I think this whole pilot project, if you look at it, has the capacity for parents to also know that there's better oversight of what their kids are doing in the classroom.
And that's the thing that's the biggest difference with this program that they're piloting is that oversight piece.
Right. When you know, when you're teaching and you've got 25 seventh graders sitting out there and you're delivering instruction and the kids are working on their laptop or their Chromebook at the same time, you know, you got two eyes, and there's 25 seventh graders sitting out there. And so using technology and using the software to be able to monitor that they actually are engaged and that they don't have another tab pulled up and looking on YouTube or something other like that and they're off task and is very important, and it is to me as a leader of the district, and that absolutely was as a parent when I had kids in similar technology formats as well.
To see this move, I mean, right now it's somewhere between 10 and 15 teachers across the district are piloting this, so it's not a huge program yet. It's to see how this works and figure out the best path forward. But to see that first step at this point toward improving that technology infrastructure and experience like we talked about, how important is that first baby step that they've made now?
Well, I think it blazes a trail for all others. And, you know, it helps when you're able to phase things in, and it gives, it's like anything else in the history of society. When great things have happened, you started off with settling this nation. Well, the first thing you had was pioneers. And then along the way, the pioneers had come through, and then the next thing you had was early adopters. And so I think in this instance, that's where we are in the process of these early adopters. They are using the product, they're training students on the processes, and from that, we will be able to get good data to ensure that there's routines and procedures for the next phase and the next teachers and the next classrooms to stand up.
The next topic that you and I wanted to touch on, and this one is very quick. We just wanted to congratulate because now GPAs and everything have been determined for the graduating class of 2025, and we can give you, on Take Two with Hawk, a sneak peek at the Coppers Cove High School top 10, not the top 10% because it's a big high school. We'd be here a while, but the top 10. But before we announce those names and give you that sneak peek, again, that full announcement will be out on Monday or Tuesday morning, rather. So look on the CCISD social media channels for that full announcement on Tuesday. But before we give these folks the sneak peek of the names, what would you say to the top 10 graduates?
Well, I think just how impressed I've been at the ones that I've been able to meet thus far. Is, you know, we have this narrative out there in society that tomorrow's leaders are inadequate, and the kiddos that I have met, tomorrow night we're going to prom, and my wife said, are we going to prom? I said, absolutely. I said, I want to see some of these kids that I've met. I've took pictures with them, whether it be at the Multicultural Fest or wherever I've seen them. I've engaged with them at extracurricular opportunities and everything. I look forward to seeing them in their best tomorrow night. But the character and quality of these kiddos, if you got to know them, definitely you feel like the future's in good hands. And for that, I would just say, the top 10, my expectations after I've met them is that they're going to represent Coppers Cove ISD extremely well. They're going to do great things. They're still going to be members of our family as they go out into their careers or military service, or they go out into their college situations. I'm very enthusiastic to see the accomplishments that they made. With that, I just always say, don't forget who you are. You're a CCISD Bulldog, and that's important. Your brand's a little bit higher than anybody else's, and go out there and make us proud.
So without further ado, the top 10 in the Coppers Cove High School class of 2025. Number 10, Christine Mejia. Number 9 is Amaya Griffin. Number 8 is Lainey Estores. Number 7 is Nayab Khan. Number 6 is Eileen Rodarte. Number 5 is Tina Marie Akindayomi. Number 4 is Ethan Olson. Number 3 is Janiyah Bacon. Your salutatorian is Nathaniel Roberts. And your valedictorian in 2025 is Brenda Thomas. Congratulations to those 10. We look forward to celebrating you at graduation. And in case you have not seen it yet or you didn't catch the last Hawks Talk, the 2 commencement ceremonies this spring in Copperas Cove ISD, Crossroads High School, scheduled for 6 p.m. on May 22nd. That's a Thursday night. That will be at Lee Ledger Auditorium on the campus of Copperas Cove High School. Copperas Cove High School commencement ceremony is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Friday, May 23rd. That will be at the Cadence Bank Center in Belton, formerly known as the Bell County Expo Center, and we will celebrate those graduates there. The last thing we wanted to talk about, and I wanted to get to this point relatively quickly because there's a lot of nuance in this. It's more school finance talk. There's some change in some thoughts, some misnomers with taxes in the school finance world. As we start it, earlier this week, Governor Greg Abbott posted a photo of he and the Speaker of the House and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick at breakfast, and he talked about one of his priorities for the remainder of the session, however long that is at this point, 3 or 4 weeks. School funding was on there. What should people know about that before we dive into the tax piece of it?
Yeah, well, there's nothing happened, and I reiterate that since 2019, districts have not gotten any increase in the basic allotment, and that's crucial. It's crucial to the teachers and the educators in every school district across the state of Texas. Every school district in the state of Texas is sitting out there that is running deficit budgets will attest to you. The reason up before that is because of inflation. Inflation has hit us, and it's hit us hard. Districts, the local trustees have had to dip into their savings accounts and run deficit budgets in order to ensure that they can keep and hold on to the best staff that they can. And so local school boards are doing the best that they can to address those needs, but it was derelict of their duty to leave in 2023 and not do anything with funding for schools. And now here we are again, and we're very cautiously optimistic that something's going to come down the trail. House Bill 2 is sitting over in the Senate. They're having their committee meetings on that. And even if we get that, that don't get us to where we need to be. You're going to hear people say that is historic funding. But I also would say this, that historic funding that they're talking about doesn't fill in the holes from 2023 to where they did nothing. And it doesn't get us back to where we were in 2019. So if you want to talk about public education, you want to talk about leveling the playing field so that everybody can compete, put us back to where we were in 2019 so that we would be able to, do the things that we need to do and provide that level of instruction that we were providing back in that day.
You look at the tax piece, and this was one that you really wanted to touch on in this one. So I'm going to let you take it from here and talk about that tax piece. And one thing that I'm not sure that people quite understand in school finance is there are 2 completely separate tax buckets, and the state has control over one, and the local community has full control over the other with a state set cap. Both of those tax rates have dropped in CCISD over the course of 10 years. This year, the maintenance and operations bucket, which is the one really controlled by the state at that point, stayed the same as it did a year ago. And the interest in sinking, which is your debt service, your bond elections, that one dropped for Copperas Cove ISD as the district goes to pay off that 2005 bond series, which was the most recent one passed in the district. So I'll let you take it from here. But what should people understand about their taxes, especially when it comes to their community schools? Well,
I think the first two points is, number one is that we have a flawed system. And I know and understand, last month we all paid our income tax, and nobody likes taxes. I get it. It's we work and we work extremely hard as human beings, as Americans, and it seems like we can never get ahead because either the cost of things is going up faster than our salaries, or the government's overspending in some shape, form, or fashion, and it's frustrating. But we have a very flawed system here in Texas, is that everything sits on the back of, as far as school funding goes, sits on the back of property owners. And I don't think that's fair either. I think that, that we're constitutionally mandated to have a public school. And then the legislature has went out and passed laws that tomorrow Governor Abbott is instituting a third plank and spending another $1 billion to educate a handful, a fraction, less than 2% of the students in the state of Texas. And then, in 1995, we had this charter school phenomenon. And so we continue to add things on that cost money instead of utilizing cost-sharing methods and maximizing the things that we need to do to educate the 5.5 million kids across the state of Texas. So I hear you. I get it, but I can't change the tax system or the way that thing is done out there. And so I understand people is frustrated. But the second point that I would make is that we've got to quit having people tell false narratives to each other. And, the systems of tax and everything is very complicated, and it's done for a reason because, people with common sense don't have the ability to sit down and study and know what's what with these things because they've got different formulas and all of this to confuse the situation. But what you said, I think, is very relevant. The tax rate in Coppers Cove, and if you look in the Coppers Cove Annual Performance Report, which that's what we put on the state of the district, and it's on our website,
CCISD.com/superintendent.
And if you look over to page 10, I think that pretty much tells the story of everything, and that is, first of all, that this district's finance ratings has been the top for over the past 2 decades. So the state of Texas is rating our finances as good as anybody can possibly be. If it's 100, we're 100. If it's 105, then we rate 105. We are the best of the best as far as financial integrity goes. But on that page there, you see that in 2015, the total overall tax rate was $1.21, and today it is 77 and some odd cents per hundred of valuation. And so here's what I want people to know. If you haven't listened to anything else in this podcast, just think about that. If the tax rate is coming down, why is my taxes continuing to be high? And there's statewide officials that are pushing a false narrative that it's the school board's faults, it's your county commissioner's fault, it's all these other people's faults. And it's shameful to me that people would just blatantly lie to the citizens of the state of Texas. If the tax rate's coming down and yet your taxes are going up, what does that tell you about the tax rate? They're not related. The issue comes from values, and the values are set by the comptroller's office. The comptroller does a property value study. That property value study makes sure, and here's the other guy that gets blamed a lot. The tax collectors, assessors, the county appraisal district, all those people get, they get a bad rap too, because the appraisal district has to set a value within that coefficient of what the comptroller says. So please understand, the comptroller, the state comptroller, controls all of that. It's controlling the values of your home. And the people in Austin know this because they put into their budget every year rise in appraisal values, which rise in revenue. So as appraisal goes up, it rises in revenue. And so it's not your local people, your school districts, your county commissioners, it's not their fault. This whole thing is triggered by the comptroller and the values that come with that. And so The last thing that I would say in that is that if there were 3 nuclear power plants that moved into Copperas Cove ISD, that would not impact our maintenance and operation or our revenue. We get a tick over $10,000 per student. $80 million budget, 8,000 students. You can do the math. You can figure out where it's at. All that's on our website. You can look at it. So if there were 3 nuclear power plants that moved in to the state of Texas, to Copperas Cove ISD, the values of our school district will obviously go up. Okay? So does that generate any more money for the kids of Copperas Cove? No, we're still going to get $10,500 per student. So where does that money go? It goes back to Austin into their general fund. And so your school district's on a fixed revenue. And so here's the deal. If we could raise the property tax rate, that M&O tax rate, if that M&O tax rate goes up, we're still going to get $10,500. So the money that it generates would go to Austin. So I just wanted everybody to understand that. That's the truth of it. You can go back and rewatch this podcast again, but everything there is the truth of it. I will debate that with any state official, anytime, any place. I'd love to sit down and talk with them and try to educate them on exactly the dynamics of this thing, but I definitely want our community to know and not be duped by somebody that's got some other agenda out there that's selling a false narrative.
And school finance is something that you're intimately familiar with. You've talked about it in meetings before. Your doctoral dissertation was on school finance.
I suffered through 3 years of just being inundated with school finance, and so you go through your dissertation defense on school finance and everything, and so that's where I've kind of gravitated over to. It was I guess I'm what you call a data nerd. I like numbers. I like quantitative research. It's very cut and dry, and so that's an area that I studied, enjoy it, and understand it real well.
You bring up the tax rate, and so to everybody, to your point rather. Since the 2015-16 fiscal year, when taxes were $1.21.7, there was an increase, and yet since that day, the tax rate now is 43.9 cents lower, including a 24-cent per $100 valuation drop in the past 2 years. Only a nickel of that is the interest and sinking rate dropping as the district pays off the 2005 bond series. I think it's technically the 2012 because they refinanced it. So when you see that and you talk about this is how it actually works, where does the misnomer come from in your expertise, and for our community, how important is it to remind everybody that those two tax buckets are very, very different? If the district were to pass a bond tomorrow, none of that money can pay salaries.
Correct.
But also, your maintenance and operations bucket isn't really supposed to go build facilities either. That's not how the school finance system was set up by the state legislature.
No, that maintenance and operations fund is set up in statute to educate kids on a day-to-day operation. And so, if you got a broke air conditioner, we budget monies to fix that broke air conditioner. Maybe it needs a new compressor. But if your air conditioners are 25 years old on a wing of your school, they're beyond their life expectancy. And so at some point you need to remove all those air conditioners and put new ones in. Well, there's really 3 pots of money. There's the INS, there's the M&O, and then there's fund balance over there. And so you hope that you can save enough money over time to address those things. And kudos to the board, they've been able to do that, and to do some things. But as facilities age, the more facilities age, the more those capital needs happen, and you get to a point where you just can't save enough that you have to go finance. Most of us are independently wealthy, and so just like a school district, there gets to a point to where your expenses go to a point that you have to go buy an air conditioner. And you may say in your personal business, you go down to one of the hardware stores and you finance an air conditioner, and some of them have real good credit card interest rates or whatever. Well, that's the same thing that schools do. And so, no, we can't, we can't go pass a bond and pay our teachers more money. That's not what that's for. It's for capital projects. It's for the things that you need in order for your district. There's a lot of fast growth districts in the state of Texas. And you've got in those fast growth districts, tell you a district that's in the greater Houston area down there is Cleveland ISD. I watched Cleveland ISD grow from about 4,000 kids in 2014, and here we were last year in 2024, and they were at about 12 or 14,000 kids. And so they've experienced, I think they're the second fastest growth district in the state of Texas per capita. They passed several series of bonds to build schools. To the point that they can't keep building schools because they've run out of their debt capacity and several other dynamics. But what do you see around those schools? Lots of little portable buildings. So if you can't build a new school to educate your kids in, then you gotta do something. You got to put them somewhere because they're going to keep coming. And so they bought. I think I counted 70 portable classrooms in that district when I quit counting. And that's not the premier education that you want to give. That's not a situation where you can say, "Hey, we're the school of choice." Because, if you want to run a welding shop or you want to run a wood shop out of those portables, you're in a bind. So it limits what those districts can do.
And that doesn't even start to account for the safety challenges that a portable classroom presents.
It's a complete utter nightmare. We know. In the past 5 years, definitely since U-Valley, we know that you want to design buildings that control the point of entry. The less point of entries for ingress and egress you have that you can manage and still be safe with the fire codes and everything, the better off you are. But every portable you drop out there is another point of entry. And it's another ability for somebody that we live in a sick world to do something to harm somebody.
And is there anything, when it comes to school finance, is there anything else you would want to touch on with the community? And by the way, again, the annual performance report that Dr. Hawkins held up is available ccisd.com/superintendent. And then the page that he was looking at on the financial integrity and tax rate is, again, that is page 10. CCISD 2 years in a row has received a perfect score on the financial integrity rating system of Texas, or first, and then has never received below a superior, which is an A grade in finance. So again, that's page 10. But as we go in there, is there anything else you would want to touch on before I do have one question about fund balance, but I want to see if you have anything else first.
Yeah, I think the community needs to know that, as I said at the State of the District, we're dodging. And, you see Elon with the Department of DOGE, and my last few years, I'm very proud of being able to make districts function efficiently as possible. It doesn't just happen at the flip of a switch, and I know that President Trump and Elon is definitely moving very fast in their approach to it, and schools don't move as fast. But what our community needs to know is that we are doing everything that we can to audit every expense and everything that's out there to make us more efficient, whether it's the Chromebooks that we're buying opposed to the laptops that we used to buy. We've got a more efficient model, a more sturdy model, a model that's more, what I feel like is more effective for schools. You've got electricity audits that are going on. We've done personnel audits, and all of those things we use the decision point to make our school more effective so that our kids and our community gets more of a bang for our buck. So I think that's very important to know that we're on a great path, and we're going to continue to to look over a continuum and make sure that our district 5 years from now is a whole lot more efficient than it is today.
My last question is on fund balance. You talked about it briefly, but this is something that there have been questions about in the community in my time in the district, and I'm sure in yours as well. Fund balance is legally required by the state for a school district. What are the requirements on that, and how does our district, one, handle it, and two, move forward?
Yeah, so fund balance is absolutely necessary. If a district don't have fund balance, number one, you don't get a good first rating, because TEA recommends that you set out there with 3 months operating expenses. And that's what you really have to be able to function. As I said before, there's multiple revenue points. Like us, we either get paid weekly, bi-weekly, once a month, or whatever it is out in the businesses that we work in. And school districts get paid on the schedule as well, but some of our school districts get paid more regular than others. But nonetheless, you have to have money to operate on. So if you don't have that money, TEA is only sending you money at certain times of the year, and you would have to go borrow money if you didn't have fund balance. Number one, you'd get hit on your first report. Number two, you'd have to go borrow money to operate on. And we know nobody wants to borrow money to operate, because you have to pay interest, so it increases your cost. And so TEA wants to see 3 months operating expenses there. And then the money beyond that, trustees look at what facility needs are out there in the district from a capital perspective, and then they start to assign fund balance to projects. Unfortunately, districts across the state have been forced to use fund balance to have employee salaries, and that's not a good thing. I mean, the same example would be this: I've got a credit card in my pocket, and if that was my source of revenue, eventually your credit card gets maxed out and you can't pay it back. Well, the same thing there. If your expenses in public schools are to where it's beyond what your budget is and you're having to dip into fund balance, you become one of those CTD districts, circling the drain. And it's not long before you go bankrupt, and then some other district around you has to take you over. You saw that in East Texas. There was a district, Etoll ISD, and that's exactly what happened to them. They diminished their fund balance. They run out of revenue. They went broke, and their neighboring district, Woden ISD, took them over. And so that money is there to help districts stay solvent from an operation standpoint, and then just from the standpoint of being able to address things. Like I said, it's easy to think about, things like your air conditioners and things like that. But a lot of times districts have cycles built into their finances to where they have to buy buses. And a lot of times they'll save up money in an account and assign it. And once they get to an amount of money, then they can go buy X number of buses to cycle into their fleet. And so that's kind of the functions of fund balance. We're a nonprofit organization. We're not here to make a profit. And, as we go through this facility study, our facility committee, we've also got other points that we'll look at, and then we'll make sure that all the money that's in our fund balance is assigned to viable projects to help the district and the students in the future.
As we wrap up today, what are you looking forward to as the school year starts to wind down? I mean, the clock is ticking. Senior engagement night is Tuesday night, and then there's a whole host of awards nights the week after. There's spring concerts going on, and then obviously the 2 commencements at the end of the month. What are you most looking forward to?
Well, there's something I'm looking forward to, and then there's something that I'm not looking forward to. So I'll talk briefly about both of those. The thing that I'm looking forward to, and I've always been, in my mind, I look back through my high school career, and the moment that I remember the most is when we were sitting there as a class together. So that commencement to me is very special. It marks a milestone in a family. It marks a milestone in a child's life. And that child's fixing to go out into the world and do great things. But here's the thing that impacts me about commencements. as 17 years as superintendent, I look out there and then some as high school principal, I looked out there and I've watched that class together and know that the chances are that that group of kids will never be together in totality for the rest of existence. Things happen, life happens. Here I am, a graduate of 1990 in the class of Huntington High School, and I've never been back to a reunion. And so in my own class, we're not, because I've had classmates that passed away, and so we'll never be together again. So that moment in time is so special to me, to see those kids with so much enthusiasm, but also know that the relationships that they forged has been important, because the person sitting beside you has a lot of influence on who you become. If you want to do great things, show me your friends, and I can pretty much predict where you are, and so, or where you will be. And so that commencement is very important to me. I take great joy in seeing that moment. But also the other thing that I don't take pleasure in is one of the saddest moments in a normal cycle of a superintendent's life is that Monday after commencement, because the kids aren't at school anymore. And so that's kind of a sad time. So we have to dust ourselves off as superintendent and then immerse ourselves into our jobs and look forward to the next August when kids roll back into the buildings again.
Well, Dr. Hawkins, thanks for your time. I'm enjoying this podcast, and so I look forward to the next one we can do, probably, if we're being honest, the week after graduation, once everything calms down. But appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being here. I love Bulldog Nation. And with that said, God bless and go Dogs.
For Dr. Brent Hawkins and all of us at Coppers Cove ISD, I'm Director of Communications Curtis Quillen saying thanks for joining us on Take Two with Hawk. We'll see you on the next one of these. For now, good night and go Dogs.